are released. Bloomberg has the report under surveillance with crucial data and expert analysis at terminal speed. Nobody covers Jobs Day like Bloomberg. The countdown is on. Everything
cool.
to get the edge at the end of the market day.
Big tech earnings kick off later this afternoon.
Gilead is coming out right now.
We have take two numbers.
So
Back to the markets, right? Our bread and butter.
NVIDIA is one of the best stories in the tech space.
That actually matters a whole lot more.
It might shock some of your viewers.
You're watching The Close.
Get ahead of tomorrow's trading with The Close. Weekdays on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Some economic data just seconds away. All eyes on the labour market to see whether some of the tension in policy is beginning to show up in the underlying economy and start to give life to layoffs. The layoffs that we certainly don't want to see anytime soon. Equity futures going into that negative by 0.2% on the S&P.
This is looking real good, you know.
On the Nasdaq 100 in the bond market, things are settled down. Can we call it stability? 2-year, 10-year, 30-year yields lower by 5 basis points.
Potential
on 10.
short.
Your 10-year 4.33. With some economic data, let's cross over to Mike McKee. Good morning, Mike.
8-hour candle looks pretty
Good morning,
decent.
John. It's almost like the magic 8-ball for economists. Initial jobless claims come in at 222,000.
I have to pay attention to a couple of these areas first.
The forecast was last week.
That 2-hour candle there.
216,000. The continuing claims number 1,841,000. That's down a little bit from 1,878 in the prior week. Durable goods orders, though, this is quite a shock. 9.2% gain. Last month was 1%. The forecast was for 2%. But I think what we've got here is
okay. So initial jobless claim to just come out. It's remained the same at 222k. It's up from the previous data. Okay.
That's the one that goes into GDP every month. We talk about that. Up 0.1% as forecast. So it looks like we've got an outlier somewhere, and I'm going to guess that it is in the Boeing area and perhaps in automobiles. But I'll have that for you in just a second.
Mike, we'll come back to you when you have that data. Might be key there, breaking things down for you. Equity futures at the moment, not breaking down, doing okay. We're negative by 1/10 of 1% on the S&P.
EU's moving.
Around a table here in Washington, D.C. I'm very pleased to say, it's Jonathan Pingle of UBS. Jonathan, it's good to see you, sir. You've got to help us understand this moment. This data is so hard to read at the moment. It's difficult to know what is a pull forward and what is just a reflection of a resilient economy. Which one is it at the moment for you?
Well, I think one of the things we're seeing right now is just, I mean, every economy is going to have a certain amount of momentum. It's going to take time for some of the weakness to show up, particularly in the labor market. If you think about, the decisions that firms have to make, they're grappling with a lot of uncertainty. Their first knee-jerk reaction may not be cut now. It might be wait and see. And I think that was what we're seeing. I mean, we're generally expecting that the labor market data is probably going to look okay through the May data. We've been expecting that it probably will soften relative to March. But that it's probably not really until sort of June, July, August time frame that we really see.
So what's actually interesting when I look at GU, I look at EU. Right, we didn't actually make a new leg lower. Right, yesterday we had a failure.
Has some of the damage already been done?
Now, this could be one of two things, or mean one of two things. Right, this could mean that we are about to start rallying higher, or we're just pulling back to then head down lower. Now, it's difficult to keep selling something that's bullish, right? Because evidently G is bullish. EU is also. Let me see. Okay, so we've had a slight breakdown daily for EU. Right, so you can classify it as bearish, to be honest.
State local government spending was slowing, labor market was cooling. Now we're adding kind of a shock, and we can debate the magnitude, but I certainly think it's going to weigh on growth.
We've got some equal highs forming here.
Soft data and hard data, and will the soft data come up to the hard data come down to the soft data? Neil Dutta over at Renaissance Macro put out a really interesting point, which is a lot of the hard data is made look better than it has because of the bring forward type of behavior of trying to get orders and shipments before the tariffs went into effect.
Essentially, what I'm trying to do is identify a decent area where we can go long. Now, don't get me wrong, you can definitely look to take an entry off of this pullback here, right? In fact, I'm going to take a very small position now using that, right, off of the DXY, but ideally, I do see this on the half hour dropping a lot lower to actually come down to, well, this half hour candle, but realistically, I'm going to look at this one here, right? That's how low this could potentially come. Okay, but I'm going to start buying EU from, well, sorry, selling EU from where it's just tapped into, and we're going to see how that does for now.
So this is a challenging environment, I think, for businesses and the economy, and I do expect it to feed through to the hard data eventually.
John asked a really important question yesterday.
It's a little bit tricky. It is a little bit tricky. It's definitely more tricky today than it was yesterday. But I think we've got some sort of a chance here that this will give us a move that we're looking for.
But I think you're certainly seeing, like when you look at the Michigan survey, for example, and the number of people who expect the unemployment rate to rise, I think you're starting to see that in surveys. People worried about their financial conditions, people worried about their jobs. And, you know, we run some surveys.
So I have entered a smaller position right now.
Analysts are starting to see some cracks even among high-end households.
So let's get into that because that's important. The conversation we were having was basically if you're worried about losing your job, you don't buy a car.
Just GE is just the only thing that's not giving me the best of confidence, because if we look at EU, obviously if we look at the highest high, which is here, we look at the highest, well, the high low, which is here, push beneath that. We've had a slight pullback into this 5-minute imbalance. We dropped off, had another pullback, so potentially looking to see this extend lower, right? But if we go to the highest high on GU here, we go to the higher low, we haven't really broken that with a lot of volume, with a lot of momentum, right? So the GU short isn't as clear, at least for now. Gold is just continuing to slowly chug its way higher. Just chug its way higher, chug its way higher. But I think we can potentially get a drop on that today. The thing is, yeah, we'll probably have to wait, you know, for some time. I reckon, you know, maybe in an hour's time when the stock market opens, and we can look to go from there.
Jobless claims still okay. Do you see anything to worry about the labour market in the real hard data at the moment?
The labor market's holding up pretty well. I would say, though, when I look at some of the forward details in sort of some of the...
Let's take a look at Bitcoin.
Surveys we see, when we think about how low the hiring rate is, you know, some of the incoming anecdotes on layoff announcements.
Okay.
A lot of that really
Let's take a look at stocks.
And if I continue to walk
really quickly.
that's headed, and economic growth
okay, that looks like it's ready to gear up and buy up again. I'll be honest with you guys. Just from looking at it, from what it's done this morning, taking out the low, we've got progressive price action inside of here. It does look like we'll at least go for 50, what's that, 53.92 on the S&P, at least for now anyways. So let's see how that does. That daily candle's high is here, by the way.
Trying to sort of look ahead at these tensions. And I think, you know, this is not a tension that's new
yeah.
to this White House and this Federal Reserve. You know, but clearly
so Bitcoin may potentially keep going for it, guys.
The Reserve has other economic goals, and they may not be well aligned.
Jonathan, it's good to see you. As always, appreciate your thoughts. Jonathan Pingle there of UBS. I promised to revisit with Mike McKee. Mike, I know you're looking at that data. What explains it?
Boeing, one word, Boeing. Transportation equipment, non-defense aircraft up 139% in terms of orders. We also had some strength in automobiles. Motor vehicles were up by 2.3%. That's not as strong as last month's 1.5, but it's still fairly strong. And we did see some strength in other areas that you might expect some.
Dollar's candles are printing progressively bullish.
Do come up. Interestingly, though, computers.
Okay, so let's just say we're interested in going short. I'd like to at least cover that high there. Realistically or ideally, I'd prefer to cover this high all the way up here, but R&R wouldn't just not make any sense.
catch up with what we have seen out there in the markets.
So this is what we could potentially look at.
Might keep us on top of things. Might be key there on the latest economic data. Let's turn back to the trade story. China and the latest there, demanding the US to revoke all unilateral tariffs and denying any talks on a trade deal. Joining us now to discuss is a veteran economist, financial regulator, Jose Vinales, the chairman of Standard Chartered. Jose, it's good to see you, sir.
You too. Good morning.
You've quite literally seen it all in your time at Standard Chartered, the IMF, and the Bank of Spain once upon a time as well. Have you ever seen it like this before?
Well, I think that the uncertainty we're having is very high, but this may not be unique. I remember times, for example, during the global financial crisis, precisely at the beginning, at the month, September, October, here in Washington also, at the meetings at the time, the uncertainty was off the charts again. And
Let's see.
also,
Now, right now, if we look at current price action, if the dollar does pull down, okay, EU is not going to push up as much, right? If you look at that high there on the 30-minute, you can see that EU is definitely taking out that low, right? This half-hour candle is low. And dollar, if I go to the 30-minute, you can see it hasn't taken out that half-hour candle's high. So there is a slight divergence between the two currently. Right, if we can get a little pullback here and, some more bullish price action, that's what ideally we're looking for.
Of decisions by households and also by businesses. And this complicated environment may be resolved for the better or for the worse. But so far, I don't think we have seen significant financial consequences beyond the stock market volatility that we have seen over the past few weeks, and also some interesting gyrations in the U.S. Treasuries market.
Which we'll get to in a second in terms of just how much that does affect stability. I am wondering, we are seeing, though, a pretty seismic shift in rhetoric in terms of what the ultimate goal is for the trade partnerships between the world's biggest economies.
Okay, we are getting some bullish price action.
90% of all profits come from Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. How much are you seeing your clients materially shifting away from the U.S. at a time where there is heightened uncertainty and real questions about, say...
I don't think we need to rush this per se, because the buyers are not as obvious as what yesterday's profile was. Like yesterday's profile was quite clearly a long or strong dollar. Now with the price action that we've had yesterday, right, we've taken out those lows there, right, with this morning's price action. We've got Tokyo session up here as well, right? We didn't really punch below it, change structure, and then go bullish. We just kept on sliding down lower, which, in my eyes is telling me, okay, cool. Yes, price is coming down, but it doesn't mean that we're going to reverse back to being bullish. We need to give it some time.
Clients want to continue doing business with the United States, but they also, I think, are thinking about diversifying more. And all of these will end up depending, this diversification, on what is the ultimate outcome that countries are having in their bilateral negotiations with the United States. But I can tell you that if at the end of the day, what we have is that there is a lot more friction in the trade between the United States and the rest of the world is going to increase further the economic and financial relationships that they have. And we have already been seeing this for quite some time, that if you look at the dynamics of global trade over the past 5 to 10 years, you have seen that the dynamism of trade among emerging markets far outweighs the dynamism of trade, with advanced economies.
So this actually raises the question we've been talking about all morning. How much do some of the U.S.'s trade policies push the likes of Europe closer to China, as well as the rest of the developing world?
Well, I think that it's very natural that if you're doing less business or potentially doing less business with a particular partner, which may be very important as the U.S. will continue to be, you may try to do more business to sell your products in other markets. And what we have seen in these few weeks is that a number of areas in the world are thinking about furthering their integration. For example, I was in Malaysia a few weeks ago. They were having the ASEAN+3 official meetings with ministers of finance and central governors. Well, the ASEAN region will closer economic integration because there are
Yes, Ritz. How you doing, Mark? What's going on, guys? You all good? Money day to all of yous.
Trade arrangements, which are going to be more important in terms of
trade setup right now, yeah, for all of you that are here on the live stream, is EU short. Right, I'm even looking to short EU where it is right now, to be honest.
This is growing very, very significantly, of course, between Asia.
We've had the high impact news come out in the red folder. Didn't really do much. We've got existing home sales in about an hour and 15 minutes. So we'll see what we get with that as well. But apart from that, it just looks like a pretty technical week left over.
Some of the most dynamic markets in the world. And we will see this further connectivity. And as a bridge bank, as a formidable super connector.
What I'm trying to understand, at least for now, right, is this daily profile that we've got here inside these candles, right? Are we about to see the low of the day form already this morning and a potential flip to give us the high of the day? You know, maybe the high of the day is not going to take out Wednesday's high. Maybe we might close somewhere around here, right, inside of the range. And then Friday, we finally have one more push to the upside, right? Weekly candle, you know, it's not giving us much. It hasn't flipped and engulfed the previous week's high. So there's still not enough data in there.
So you don't want to choose. So the question is how you manage that.
So right now we're just working with the LTF time frame, the lower time frame. Price action. We want to see progression. We want to see more bullish price action. This is good so far, but we want to see more. Ideally, I'd like to see a more significant high get taken, which is this one here, and then see what kind of reaction we're going to get past this high for the dollar. Okay, because even when I look at EU, he's even giving potential, you know, buys with this 2-hour candle, so we need to bear that in mind when we're looking at these markets.
So you need to have fair trade with lesser imbalances, and I think that trade is indispensable for the growth of the world.
Yes, gift money day, broski.
To the body, we need to make sure that we preserve fair, but reasonably open trade circuits.
So far, GDX is up on the pre-market. Okay, GDX is up on the pre-market.
The issue that we've got at the moment is that they might be forced to choose. And this isn't really new. I think China,
if we get the dollar tapping into this price here, 99.37, right? Ideally, I prefer for it to take out the previous half-hour candle's low. I'll take another buy on EU. Okay.
Won't be forced on them. A choice between the United States or China.
Well, I think that there is United States, there is China, there is India.
Okay.
There are the Gulf Cooperation countries. There is Europe, European Union, and the UK. There is Africa. There are many different parts of the world. And even if there may be some constraints, which, by the way, already exists, because we have sanctions, we have export controls,
of course.
We have limitations to cross-border trade and investment flows on the basis of national security. Even if some of those may get a little bit larger,
okay.
I think that it is ultimately in the interest of all countries, including.
All right, cool. I'd like to see.
China,
I'll start to go for that high now, you know.
Of course, takes care of their concerns, but allows U.S. firms to continue doing important business in China
we did.
Countries, and for Chinese firms to continue doing business in places which are in the United States sphere of influence. So I think that this should be the target. And listening, for example, yesterday to the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury talk about the possibility of a big deal between the United States and China, that is in a scenario that I think will be very important for the world. And the fact that this is mentioned by the United States,
Okay, let's talk about the flip side. If we break these lows, it's not looking good. If we break these lows, then I would actually expect to see this continue to drop lower. But for the time being, we're going to work with this ranges low to this high, right? That's what we're working with right now.
Between the two largest economies in the world.
We've certainly taken the temperature.
Working with this range is low to high.
It's good to see you, sir. Thanks for being with us to share your perspective. Thank you. How's everyone else there? The Standard Chartered chair. Up next on the program, we'll run you through the week ahead in just a moment.
Still want to see some bullish price action come out of this. I understand that we are coming down right now, but that's when you need to get in.
Saying it would cause them to leave the country. The remarks could discourage further talks about creating a new 40% tax bracket for people earning $1 million or more. Lawmakers return to Washington next week, where you are, to begin discussions on a tax package. Meanwhile, Whirlpool shares are rising 2.5% in the pre-market. The company maintained its full-year financial outlook, saying the long-term impact of global tariffs will benefit its position.
It's difficult because 1 to 2 R, which is about 80 pips, like we need to break very, very significant lows. And preferably a 1 to 2 R, I want it to still be inside of the range. So for example, the short here from yesterday, 1 to 2 R, was just about off the range. So I know that most of the time when we got down here and I said to you guys, hey, I'm taking partials, it's because look, we might not get down here, but because the main target is close enough or is inside the range, it's decent. Gift says news didn't do anything significant. Yeah, it didn't. It didn't really do much. I was in some gold buys earlier here. I was just sat in this, watched it go into profit. I don't know, like 90 pips, come back down, go into profit, come back down. I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I ended up closing the trade. Mark says he's in a gold buy right now. Okay. Right now? What's your price, bro? $33.37. Okay, so it's relatively recent. Yeah, it's not bad over here. I mean, volume's not really saying much for gold. I just hate the fact that we're still inside of Tokyo's range. So it's like with the expansion, I'm not too sure if we're gonna go up or come down, at least for now. Okay, Rich is in for a buy as well at a similar price. Okay. You guys riding that out, boy.
It's hard to come up with that.
It's the vast responsibilities, the need to be engaged in different topics.
It's remembering which audience I'm speaking to and what I can say in that context.
The job is not just being the executive of the finance function, it's being an executive for the company.
I would say it's prioritization.
Complete the sentence. The hardest part of being the CFO is
telling people no. It's hard. It's the right thing to do, but it's always hard.
So being just like a touch of a heartbreaker, basically.
Yeah.
We have a plethora of good opportunities. Some are really, really good, but as we strive for the great ones, sometimes those really, really good ones have to be left behind.
New episodes this spring, only on Bloomberg.
Africa, a region rife with potential for growth and opportunities, but not without its challenges. Bloomberg highlights the biggest stories, interviewing key players, and reporting on the issues impacting the region. Join us as we get to the heart of African business, politics, and economics, and ask the question, what's next? I'm Jennifer Zabasaja, and this is Next Africa.
New episodes every month, only on Bloomberg.
Middle East and Africa. Vibrant resources and high-yield investment opportunities abound. Join me on Horizons Middle East and Africa for the stories, newsmakers, and insight from this exciting region. Now weekdays, only on Bloomberg.
Earnings season is here.
I know it's like your Super Bowl, right?
I can't wait. It's like opening presents in the morning.
All right, it will be exciting.
Nobody covers earnings like Bloomberg.
Let's see. So a couple of you guys are in gold longs right now. I just don't see enough right now, myself personally. I just don't see enough to really go in. Or at least yesterday we had this hourly candle where, you know, it was a catalyst for the short. We're able to identify a short setup somewhere around here. Obviously, you know, we didn't get the pullback, but that's fine. Inside of this price action now, there's, yeah, it's just cool. Yeah, you know, there's lower time frame bullish price action side of here. You know, there's I feel like there's a pretty decent trend line forming here. You know, for those of you that do trade trend lines, I feel like there's a pretty decent trend line inside of there. And I want to see that get violated at some point. You know, I want to see it get violated. So unfortunately for you guys that are in those gold longs, I am looking for a gold slap. But again, it doesn't mean get out of your positions, guys. You know, stick with your trades. I don't want to deter you from taking your own positions, you know? That's the best way you're going to learn.
14 some odd meetings. They're all in meetings this week on the sidelines of the IMF. And they say they want to get these blueprints out before the 90 days. So maybe we will have some certainty of who's getting deals and what concessions the U.S. wants to get to those agreements. As finance ministers from around the world gather in Washington, D.C. for the IMF spring meetings for the World Bank, the situation looks like this. The temperature has been turned down over the last few days. And did it come off the back of a meeting with the biggest retailers in this country, Home Depot, Walmart and Target, telling the president, reportedly, the prices are about to go up and the shelves are about to empty. Your coverage continues tomorrow live from Washington, D.C. We'll catch up with Nathan Sheets of Citi. We'll speak to Wally Adeyemo, the former U.S. Deputy Treasury.
Rich says your TP's at 33.50. Okay, that's not too far away. I mean, at 33.50, you might get filled, you know? You might get filled in. That's not too bad.
This was Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome back to another special Mutua Madrid Open update for Bloomberg TV and Radio from Tennis Channel. Former US Open champion Emma Raducanu clinched her first outdoor clay court win since 2022 with a hard-fought victory over the in-form Suzanne Lamons. The Brit fought back from a breakdown in both sets before closing out the win 6-4 in just under 2 hours. And don't forget, you can watch all the
Bloomberg is so annoying when they haven't got anything interesting to talk about.
Is this a negotiation or the new rules of the game?
It could be either.
It is up to the president how he wants to negotiate.
The higher the tariff, the faster they come.
A 90-day pause is not an eradication.
The trade negotiations are moving quickly.
There will be deals cut.
Trust Bloomberg for all the context and clarity you need as the tariff and global economy story evolves.
This year's bear case, very quickly, becoming the base case.
Nobody covers tariffs like Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
DraftKings hit a milestone in the second quarter of 2024. For the first time as a public company, it turns a profit.
Is this a new era for DraftKings?
Alright, so you know EU guys, man. They move slowly. Dollar's a little bit indecisive right now, which is okay. Half-hour candle closes in, what's that, 3 minutes to 2 minutes and a bit.
Does it increase pressure?
Okay, we're still in
I mean, once you start making profits, people
a decent price level.
You're valued on a multiple of those profits as opposed
So
to the theoretical.
right now, if I'm looking at the hourly candle,
When you're cash flow negative, you've sold a vision of what the company's
right, if I'm looking at the current candle, how I'm foreseeing the next candle coming is potentially us getting at some point during the next hour pushing beneath this hourly candle, but then evidently reversing, right? And then giving us a bullish candle. That's what I would prefer to see, right? So let's see if I'm accurate with that. So I would think, or would like to think that we'll revisit this area again. Again, I can't predict exactly how these candles are going to print, but all we can do is anticipate what price is going to do. Okay, so with me anticipating that, I reckon we'll probably, within the next hour, punch beneath this low. If this is going to be a buy, right? Best case scenario is we punch the low and then we reverse straight away. Worst case scenario, the new hour comes, we continue printing up, and then we just ultimately take out the low. That would be the worst case scenario. Let's see if we can't find some entries on gold today as well whilst we're at it. Like this week, there hasn't really been much in terms of trades. I reckon yesterday, Tuesday and Wednesday were the best days to trade. Yeah. Tuesday we had that short on EU. We had another short yesterday. So let's just see what today has in store for us.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute economic news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja in Cape Town, South Africa, and this is Bloomberg.
China rebuffs Trump 30 minutes until the start of trading. I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Katie Drysdale.
Alright, so new hourly candle now.
Bloomberg open interest starts right now.
We just need to see a little bit more, you know, from price. It looks like today we'll probably get better price action around like 3 in an hour's time. Because this price action is just god awful.
Coming up, stocks back in the red as China denies tariff talks with the U.S. But some relief for autos.
Mark says my B hit, so I'm out. Okay. At least he didn't take a loss.
And speaking of earnings, the word uncertainty is dominating calls this quarter with Chipotle and PepsiCo cutting their outlooks while you have American Air pulling their 2025 guidance entirely.
Alright, so new hour. We're just taking out that low. So let's see if I'm correct. Let's see if we are onside or offside today. These 15-minute candles, they don't look great, to be honest with you guys. But this is the area where we want to see any sort of bearish price action. If we don't get it here, then we'll most likely get tapped out. Like it needs to come from here. Okay, so far the hourly candle for DXY does, I mean, there's no wick. There's no wick above this. Is there? No, there isn't. Yeah, there's no wick above that candle, so I'm still looking at this potentially flipping, but let's see. What I don't like is EU, right? If we look at EU, take a closer look at it as well on the hour, the exact same time frame. Notice how with this hour candle, we took out the low, previous hour, we also took out this low, closed bullish. Like that price action, if I was in a buy, I would love to see, right? If I was in a buy position and I saw this candle closure, then I'd feel a lot more confident to say, okay, cool, there's a higher probability of this extending higher now, right? So because the DXY hasn't given us that exact same picture or a similar picture, we're looking for the DXY to take over the picture now. But right now we're just stretching lower and lower and lower. Is gold pushing back up? No. Alright, so the next key time zone is, of course, NYSE. We'll have to look at things when we get there. But for now, in the small positions that, or the smaller positions, shall I say, that I've got for EU, is currently in drawdown. But we're going to chill. Yeah, just be comfortable in drawdown, guys. If you're right, you're right.
Incredibly complicated, always changing tariff rules on auto.
Sure. Good morning, Matt. there's a lot of things being kicked around, but what we're hearing is they might get rid of two things. One would be this stacking of tariffs, which is
Let's have a listen to Bloomberg for a little bit.
Parts, but the steel as well. And then there's another part of this proposal, which is they would cut the tariffs on USMCA compliant parts. So what they'd already talked about putting in place is you have a tariff on the vehicles coming in from Mexico, for example. If they are USMCA compliant, that is, they have enough parts content, they can still get off the border with a much lower tariff, actually no tariff, but we would still place tariffs on the non-US content in those vehicles. They may also get rid of that, which that would be a big boon for the Detroit 3 because General Motors and Stellantis specifically make a lot of vehicles in Mexico, and they also have a lot of Mexican parts content on those coming up. And that would, even if they just lowered that from 25 to say 10% or something like that, that would relieve a lot of the burden on, say, Chevy and Ram pickup trucks coming over the border. It's all fluid right now. We don't know, but it does look like the administration is at least considering some proposals that would reduce the tariff burden on vehicles coming in from Mexico and Canada.
Fluid is a good way to describe this situation. We appreciate you staying on.
Okay, new 5-minute candle.
David Welch joining us from Detroit.
Okay.
On the earnings
Getting a
front,
bit of a push up there on the 5-minute.
Sales and profit outlook. You also have Pepsi cutting its full year guidance, but Keurig Dr. Pepper reaffirmed its 2025 guidance for steady growth. Let's discuss all of it now with Barclays analyst Lauren Lieberman. And I want to start with the big guys. Pepsi and Procter & Gamble lowering their guidance. Does that imply that there could be higher prices in the offing as they try to protect their margins?
So I would say both companies are not going to rely on pricing as the way to solve this. In fact, if anything, what's been challenging is that the consumer's under pressure. And so what you're seeing is consumption slow down.
I like this candle so far on EU.
Happens, and that could only put things under further pressure.
Okay.
I think where we may see pricing later in the year.
See how this 5-minute candle is going to print.
One thing that P&G just talked about on their conference call is they expect to see an annualized impact of $1 to $1.5 billion on their cost structure from tariffs, and pricing will have to be part of the mitigation plans to deal with that.
Lauren, what are the biggest inputs that are manufactured overseas that these companies have to import? And is it likely, yesterday we talked with somebody who runs a frozen yogurt company, he said paper packaging is what he needs the most. Is it likely that those things end up being produced in America?
I've just entered one more entry there on EU.
Frankly, fairly vague about what it is.
Just another smaller one I'm just stacking up.
Kimberly-Clark reported yesterday. They also
Let's see if I'll be correct on the hourly candle, how it's going to print.
Because of imports of finished goods.
That's what I'm playing here.
So we don't know a lot, frankly. Raw and
But so far, we've taken out the previous hour's low.
But there's also a piece of finished goods.
Right, this 5-minute candle is going to be quite telling. Right, if we can get this 5-minute candle, best case scenario, yeah, guys, best case scenario, we get this 5-minute candle engulfing this candle's high. Right, if we can get that engulfing that candle's high and then get a pullback, I would be happy with taking a short on EU with regular risk.
20% tariffs will not move factories from
That's what I would prefer to do.
Exactly in your wheelhouse, Lauren. But I want to go back to pricing and what you were saying, that we could see some of these companies take pricing actions maybe in the second half of the year in response.
So right now it's all good, it's all cool. We're just waiting.
Over in Europe, basically posting better.
But that's what we'd like to see ideally.
Because they raised prices. I hear what you're saying, that the consumer is stretched here, though. And if we were to see some pricing actions from the
so let's see.
how sticky are those increases?
That's not what we want to see. We don't want to see price pull up and then start dropping. Because that M1, M2 is looking bearish, at least for now anyway. So let's just give it some time.
20s to 30% over a several-year period, and volumes held in flat for a long time and then have been declining for the last 12 plus months. So the room that
because the thing is,
pricing, frankly, it feels very limited. KDP, I know we're trying to stick with the big guys in the conversation, but KDP, I mean, at-home coffee is a cost savings versus away-from-home coffee. However, when you have to buy in a multi-serve format, so you buy a box of multiple pods of coffee, it's a higher
thing is, I don't think we'll take out this low here.
so-called price
for the
pattern
dollar, at
architecture. How do
least
we
for
bring the
now. I don't
methanol
think we
out
will.
at the store in
I
order
mean,
to
I may be
increase the
wrong, but
frequency of purchase?
I want to
Like,
see this low
the companies, it's challenging.
hold.
I mean, P&G talked about the massive amounts of innovation
So
coming to
let's see.
market, and they will price with that innovation. That's the best case scenario, when you can price with news, not just price on what exists on the shelf.
It is a shock when you're at Costco buying a box of those pods and they're like 40 bucks. Let me ask about any benefits, not to harp on Whirlpool too much, but they have said that tariffs will benefit them in that these low-cost producers from Asia won't be competing in the market at a price point that beats them. Is that the case for any of the companies you covered? Does P&G or Keurig Dr. Pepper benefit at all from tariffs, protectionist tariffs, holding competition out or holding prices up?
I mean, I think the only category
So obviously, you know, with the price action that we're getting now, we might have to just chill where we are right now. I don't really expect a huge move. We might just slowly trickle. You know, this is across the board for the DXY, for gold, for EU. Today just seems like one of those days where we're gonna have better movement in the later stages of the day. So, like I said, you know, in about 50 minutes, the new 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5, 6. I think that's when we're gonna have the best or better price action for today. So we're just watching this.
Some more movers on our radar today. Texas Instruments.
Money Day, Joe. How you doing, bro? You good?
A robust forecast on demand rebound.
Monday.
Shares are up 10% in the pre-market. Merck expects to lose $200 million to already announced tariffs in 2025, but says it also has a better outlook now, or at least is holding the outlook stable. You can see the shares up 1% in the pre-market, and Bristol Myers boosts its outlook as older drugs drive sales, a sales beat, but those shares are down 1.2%.
Yeah, there you have it. A lot of interesting moves. You take it into the broader market, though. I will say the S&P 500 pretty much unchanged in the pre-market right now, Matt Miller, which is interesting because we were down somewhat significantly just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a changing market, right? But I was looking at futures today and saying, I don't know if it's a futures down day as much as it's a halt the rally day, right? We're not rising as much as we were. You can see S&P futures right now up, but only 0.04%. NASDAQ futures up 0.2%.
All right, later this hour, I'm pleased to say we're going to be speaking.
You looking at any trades for today, Joe?
We're going to speak to ServiceNow CEO.
What pairs is our main focus for today? Gold. What's gold doing? Still dropping? Still dropping. Alright, let's set an alert there. Set an alert there. Gotta stay in tune, man. Gotta stay in tune. Alright, new 15-minute candle is going to print in 2 minutes 30 seconds. Okay, so let's take a look at what this 15-minute candle's done. It's still okay. Again, we haven't made, there's no wick at the high of that hourly candle. So at some point, I'm looking for market to actually get above this high. At some point. At some point. That's the most ideal scenario. The high 993, 373. What's the high of this? 367, 373 is here. So yeah, at some point we're looking for price to get back up there. So if this 15-minute candle closes how it is now, it's okay. Like it's not really giving us much. It's okay. The next 15-minute candle does have a good potential depending on like the body of this. If the body, okay, that's a lie. It doesn't depend on the body, okay? But the higher we get the body of the candle, okay, close higher, the higher probability there is that we're going to get another bullish candle, okay, or a candle that is bullish in the next 15 minutes. Okay, that's the proper thing to say. Right, so there's probabilities. So we want to see this actually close, you know, in a similar area it is now. And I would like to say that the next 15 minute, especially when we're just about to get to NYSE, we should see this start to flip up. Yeah, that's what I'm looking out for, at least for now. So we've got about 45 seconds left of that 15-minute candle. I'm looking at EU. I like how EU's stalling inside this area here. I like how EU's, you know, pretty much pulled back up into the half-hour candle. Depending on how this candle closes will be a good indication of what the next half-hour candle is going to do as well. But again, that hourly candle, the previous hour, is scary. Right, it's not congruent for our short. Okay, Joe says in the chat box, I'm trying to go short on gold and buy the S&P. Yeah, I'm trying to short gold as well today, you know, bro. Just looking for an area to go short from, and also a little bit more evidence. You know, we've got this gap here, this market open gap. We didn't even fill it Tokyo session. We just left it. So I feel like this area is going to be a really, really good target for us. All right, it's going to be a really, really good target for us. If we can get a short somewhere around here, if the price action starts to look a little bit better, like my target would be the gap open. You know, I did post you guys the article inside of the Discord yesterday for you to all have a read, for you guys to have like a quick brief update of what's been going on around the world, right? And it's actually a very, very interesting read, just to keep you guys updated. So for those of you that haven't read it, because it probably looked really long, guys, you just have to read more about fundamentals, you know? It's going to help you. Nonetheless, I'll give you a little quick one. Okay, so Wednesday, investors grew optimistic about a possible de-escalation in the trade war between the US and China. Very key. Okay, that would explain as to why we're getting such large gaps on the rollovers. Right? Look at this huge gap on the rollover. Right, so remember, in China, Tokyo session, right? When Tokyo session opens, that's their 8 a.m. Right? So that's usually, you know, why we're seeing a lot of after hours movement, because there is a lot of talks and, you know, trade war going on with America as well. And next point here, a source familiar with the US. Oh, a source familiar with the matter said US President Donald Trump administration would look at lowering tariffs on imported Chinese goods pending talks with Beijing. So it looks like markets are on its way to calming down a little bit now. Says here, White House is considering cutting its tariffs on Chinese imports in a bid to defuse economically damaging tensions with Beijing. Adding to the upbeat tone, Trump late Tuesday backed off from the threats to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. So again, these are all positive for the dollar, and that's, you know, adding to the reason as to why the dollar has had a slight recovery yesterday. Okay. All right. So far, looking at this, we are actually finally getting up there, which is nice. EU should be dropping, which is also nice. Okay. All right, guys, it might be go time for EU. Let's check GU for a sec. I did have a little setup there on GU. Okay. Put an alert on that. Nice, nice, nice. That five-minute candle is very nice, guys. It's a very, very nice 5-minute candle. What's gold doing? Gold's still dropping lower. Just need to keep an eye out on that gold. So for me, what I'd like to do, okay, in terms of getting this for an entry, you know, taking a position on this, what I'd like to see, at least for now, is how this 5-minute candle is going to close, how the 15-minute candle is going to close, and how the half-hour candle is going to close. Long story short, I want to see how NYSE's candle is going to open. Okay, so far we're right, or we're accurate about how this candle, this current hour's candle, has been printing. Like I said to you guys, I would like to see if best case scenario we get price taking out the previous hour's candles low, and then we see this start to rally for these equal highs up here. Okay, so ideally we want to enter, right, EU, GU, whatever you're trading, gold, whatever it is, right, prior to us taking out that high. That's the best case scenario. Okay, we don't really want to enter after we've taken out those highs, right? This is, you know, ideal entry territory here. Okay, the higher this 5-minute candle, this current 5-minute candle pushes higher, the better it is for me. And we'll just enter based off of that. I like this half-hour candle. I do. I like how it's printing so far. Let's see. So here's where we're gonna be in make or break, right? Look at how this hourly candle is printing right now. You know, if we close doji, I guess doji is fine. It doesn't mean that we will just fly down. But if we start to print more of a bearish hourly candle, then I'd expect us to keep coming down lower. But for now, we're okay, right? Still haven't entered any, you know, major positions. But feel free to, if you do want to take this, okay? No one's holding gun to your head. You can add little smaller positions to see how it does. Alright, we got 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 minutes. And we've got one more high impact news to come as well. We've got one more high impact news to come.
Will drive the big investment decisions throughout the morning. I'm Guy Johnson.
I'm Kriti Gupta.
And I'm Anna Edwards.
Alright, let me read out to you guys the other points that you guys should have got from there. Okay, Tesla shares, they went up. Okay. You know, Elon Musk has yielded. He doesn't want, obviously, his company to take such a big toll, so he has said that he's significantly reducing his involvement with the US Department of Government Efficiency from next month to focus more on his many companies. Okay, so that was positive for Tesla, which, you know, aided in the stock market as well. As you guys know, Tesla is one of the big heavy hitters inside the stock market. And lastly, investors have been worried that White House pressure to cut interest rates would risk fueling inflation, just as Trump's tariffs jacked up prices. Okay, so it looks like the next interest rate decision is going to be quite important. Okay, from what we can see so far, it's going to be quite important. Alright, let's take a look. Hourly candle. Currently got a bearish doji at the moment. 15-minute candle is looking crazy. 15-minute candle is looking very bad for business, at least right now. Okay, 15-minute. I'm not gonna lie, this 15-minute candle is looking crazy, but it's okay. We're gonna wait for it to close. Right, 5-minute looks okay. Nothing more to really report on how the candles are printing. Like, we can still flip and head up higher again. It's still possible. But what we don't want to see is this low down here. Okay, we don't want to see that low. If we see this low here, that 15-minute candle is looking incredibly bearish, and you know, all sorts of shorts that I had for EU has just gone down the drain. Okay. Gold just keeps banging off of this candle here. Gold keeps banging off of that, so let's just keep an eye for that. That 15-minute candle is yeah, it's looking crazy. It's looking incredibly bearish. Still got 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. New 5-minute candle about to open.
Offering forward guidance given the political uncertainty surrounding tariffs. So we'll be watching for whatever type of forward guidance we can get from those retailers. But for now, things look pretty solid.
I'm glad you brought up durable goods because that was a doozy coming in preliminary numbers for March at 9.2% increase there. The survey had been for 2%, so clearly a pull forward, like you say. I want to wrap politics into all of this because we talked about that Binky Chadha call, that lowering of expectations. He did say that basically to get to these levels, a credible relent likely needs a significant decline in approval ratings. After the initial honeymoon period, approval ratings tend to align with what is happening in the economy. And Emily, I'm curious to get your thoughts there because we've seen so much back and forth when it comes to the trade policies of this administration. When do we start to see some stability? Does it come from approval ratings?
Yeah, it does feel like we sort of maybe got to peak political uncertainty, and there's a little bit of relief on that front given the fact that it appears that negotiations may start to play out here. We try to minimize using politics and making investment decisions. I know that seems almost ridiculous right now given how much of an influence politics are having, but we were, looking back at the decisions that we made in 17 and 18, and we did look at overweighting international equities at the time. There was a lot of excitement and positive sentiment about the pro-cyclical, pro-business policies that the Trump administration had.
Anyone seen anything crazy on the net recently? Anything interesting happening?
For a couple of quarters. We look longer term from that, and again,
Mark says, when is the other news happening? The other news is happening at 3, so that's in 34 minutes. So at the new hour.
It looks pretty quiet right now.
Zeno says, Money Day, bro, I haven't forgot about you, bro. Just give me some time. Zeno, why have you got to say that? But Money Day to you too, bro. I'm happy enough if you join the live streams, bro. It's no problem. Mark says, let me turn this down. Mark says, India putting tariffs on China. BRICS beefing internally. Oof, that's not looking good. Do you have like an article or something you can share inside the Discord, bro? I can have a read. Or do you know any information as to why, like, what's the reasoning for putting a tariff on China? This 5-minute candles, yeah, it's not looking good. So far, from what I can see, right, this 15-minute candle is probably going to come take out this low. Right, but again, New York, NYSE open will give us volume. Okay. Will give us new orders into the market. Even GU is stalling where it is right now. GU has essentially pulled back up into yesterday's sell area. Okay. So similar play, GU and EU both have a similar play right now. I'll put the article in the Discord. Okay, cool, bro. Ooh. Okay. I mean, we might be saved just by the bell, guys. So I've got a 30 pip stop here for EU. Everyone should have at least the lot size is figured out for what 30 pips would be if you do want to take this EU trade with me, whether it's at 1%, 2%, whatever your risk parameters are, right? I'm going to go for 60 pips. So 1 to 2 R trade, but depending on how strong the volume is to the downside, because I do think we'll probably take out this low. Obviously, we don't have the information yet, but let's just see. If we start to come down heavy, you know, similar to something like this, then I'll move the target a lot lower. But the main target is a 1 to 2. So yeah, I'm just waiting essentially. Guys, make sure you taking advantages of alerts, you know, making sure you got loads and loads of alerts. It will help you, trust me. Zeno, what are you saying, bro? You good? Feel like I haven't seen your name pop up in the stream for a while. All right, let's see this this article by Routers. Okay. All right, so it says here India imposes temporary tariffs on some steel to stem cheap imports from China. You know what? Let me come back to this article. Let me just focus on price action for now. So 15-minute. I mean, it's okay. How this 15-minute candle closes, it's okay. It's not really giving me much to work with. Maybe we have to wait for the new hour for the high impact news to come out before we actually get anything significant. Okay, coming down there on the dollar. It's a bit of a chop, you know. It's a real bit of a chop. This we are chopping about. So India is the world's second biggest producer of crude steel. On Monday, imposed a 12% tariff on some steel imports locally known as safeguard duty to curb a surge in cheap shipments primarily from China. A flood of Chinese steel in recent years has pushed some Indian mills to scale down operations and mull job cuts, and India is one of a number of countries to have contemplated action to stem imports to protect local industry. Okay, so it's not necessarily like they're beefing with each other. It just seems like they're protecting their own people, you know, something that, you know, the UK government should look into, you know, and emulating looking after your own people. Because right now, essentially, the reason why they've put tariffs up is to, you know, bring some friction between how much of the steel imports is coming from China, because obviously we all know everything comes from China and their labor is cheaper there and whatnot, so it's a lot easier for you to get very, very good prices. So that's the, from what I can see by Routers, that's the reason why they've put this tariff on there, and it's also a temporary tariff as well. It's not a permanent one. Okay, we're getting volume. We're getting volume. We're getting volume. Gold's dropping it like it's hot. Okay. Dollar looks like it's ready to gear up as well. I'll tell you what, guys, yeah? I think we're okay. I think we're okay. I think we're okay. I mean, I don't like this chop, but I feel like we're about to get like a really sharp move. Gold is really, really just tanked from that 5-minute. Okay. Stack some more alerts for that. Still in this chop. Thank you for sharing, bro. Anyone else seen anything interesting on the net? Any interesting points? Maybe you guys watch the news and whatnot. Yeah, man. This is just chop. It's literally just chop. I really don't want to wait for the new hour. But if markets don't move, I don't really have a choice now, do I? Mark says it doesn't know what it wants to do. Tell me about it, bro. Like, I just want to know if I should enter or not. Like, I just want a little bit more confirmation. You know, because the SO is relatively tight. Do you know what it is? It's just this hourly candle, how the previous hour candle closed and how it formed and what it did, right, is the reason why I'm being so cautious with this EU trade. Because I do want this EU trade to just, you know, be right. At the start of the week, I did tell you guys that Wednesday and Thursday are going to be the best days to trade. Well, realistically, it was Tuesday and Wednesday, but we'll see how today goes, and then we'll be able to see. But Wednesday was definitely a good day to trade. Pretty much, even if you were also trading just gold as well, there was some gold shorts. If you believed in the shorts, you would have been able to get in there as well.
Really the baby being thrown out with the bathwater to a large extent, and meanwhile the relative winners have been
The baby being thrown out with the bathwater. Have you guys ever heard of that before? That saying? That must be an American thing. The baby being thrown out with the bathwater. I've never heard of that. Have you lot heard of that before? Hold on, let me look this up. The baby being thrown with the bathwater. Okay, so it says here, means to discard something valuable whilst getting rid of something unwanted. It highlights the risk of unintentionally eliminating something good or important when trying to remove something undesirable. Okay, I see you, Emily. I see you, Emily, with your little sayings. That makes sense.
Taking hold. I know that there may be a short-term inflationary impact of tariffs, but we look at things like the housing market, which drives inflation. And if you look at shelter, CPI, that finally came down last month.
Honestly, this chop is, yeah, look at the past, 20 minutes. We've just been sitting in a chop. Look at the 5-minute candles, up, down, up, down.
Look at things like supply coming online. We're seeing some of the biggest jumps in housing supply that we've seen in quite some time.
Because of these types of price action has been one of the reasons why I've been starting the streams later. Because I've started to notice as of late, New York session, depending on when there's a high impact news or not, it tends to just give you a lot of chop. And obviously when I'm on the live stream, I actually want markets to be doing something so that we can all, have some sort of entertainment, you know what I mean? So for me, I'll just chill, wait till the hour, and then see if we can lock in a little trade.
Gas and grocery prices are way down, just like I said they would be. Eggs are plentiful and down 87%. Nice. If you look at the data, and I realize that some of this data is not fresh. For example, the white line here is the CPI food index, up, up, up. Okay, that
Gold's really trying to come down, eh?
drop there. The blue line is average national gasoline prices. Those are updated if daily.
This 15-minute candle for gold looks really good, guys.
It hasn't really come down that
I want to see it close.
Emily. So
If we see it close, then we can look for a pullback. Try and enter. Go short. Potentially revisit this imbalance here as well. The 15-minute looks really good. Let's see how that does.
Accompanied by higher commodity prices. That is really a key driver, and we're seeing the opposite based on particularly demand out of China slowing on decelerating global growth there. So if commodity prices can come down, if we can see housing inflation come down, that is something that's going to be a positive here for the bond market. Yes, rates are chopping around here, but I don't think that bonds are sniffing out the slower growth and disinflationary environment that we think unfolds over the course of 2025. Got to be maybe a little bit patient to get there.
Yeah, there's a really interesting disconnect brewing between, of course, survey expectations of inflations and what we're actually seeing in commodities. Unfortunately, we got to leave it there. Emily, great to speak with you as always. That is Manulife, John Hancock's Emily Rowland. Now, coming up, ServiceNow results show strong demand for software. We'll hear from CEO Bill McDermott next. This is Open Interest.
Okay. At the start of this new 5-minute candle, we just got a little bit of a push up. Oh, guys, man, this is such a painful chop to watch. It's just pure chop. You know what? Like, guys, we could actually just enter where we currently are. It's not a bad idea. Enter where we are, and instead of putting the stop above this high, we can put the stop at yesterday's high. Alright, which is about 42 pips higher. Alright, dollar's also pushing up a little bit as well.
Is higher than it was 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. Is that because detection is better than it used to be?
All right, so the dirty secret is we have no idea. We don't collect data
All right.
in the United States. What we do know is that there's not a dramatic rise in cancer in the United States, but what we are seeing is a troubling trend is younger people are getting
All right, I'm going to go in.
real. We have no idea why, but we are seeing younger people, more colon cancer, more breast cancer, and other cancers in younger individuals, 20, 30, 40-year-olds, that we never used to see.
What do you
I'm in.
I assume pollution or
I'm done waiting. I'm in there.
We assume it's either something in the environment, we assume it's diet, it's ultra-processed foods, it's microplastics, it's changes in the microbiome. We really don't know.
I'm in there. I'm not doubling down, but I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to see how it does. We still have 15, no. What is that? 18 minutes. Yeah, we still have 18 minutes till that high impact news. But I'm going to take it. I'm just going to take it. Like, we're not getting the price action that we want, but let's just work with it.
Bloomberg has the report under surveillance with crucial data and expert analysis at terminal speed. Nobody covers jobs day like
Let's see. So, Joe, you said you're going. Well, you're looking for a short, no, a buy on the S&P. So it looks like we're about to hit that target up there. Yep, cool. Just tapped it now. This just looks really, really bullish to me. Like, it looks like we'll finally take out this daily candle's high. Looks like we'll finally take it out. So let's see. Obviously, I'm mainly looking at EU. So
Trust Bloomberg for all the context and clarity you need as the tariff and global economy story evolves.
if you look at the line chart, right, this is the lowest low, low high, low low, high high. You know, ideally when we look at it from that perspective, right, and I zoom out, right, we came to about 62, almost tapped into 71%. So I'm gonna take that trade, man. We got equal highs resting above. We're gonna wait for that. See if we can hit that. Put a TP on this.
But we'll see how this picture changes as we get deeper into earnings season. Alphabet after the bell tonight. But it's time now for our top calls. Some of the analyst action in focus this morning. And first up, Oreo maker Mondelez getting a downgrade from D.A. Davidson on soft snacking demand and cocoa volatility. Next up, you have Deutsche Bank upgrading.
For now, 15-minute candle is looking incredibly bullish, guys. It is looking bullish.
Stocks have bottomed and also sees upside in the large regionals versus the big banks. And finally, ServiceNow getting raised to a buy over at Present Capital Management. The software company reported first quarter results that beat expectations and gave a strong outlook. And Matt, shares currently up almost 14%.
Yeah, absolutely taking off. And we are going to talk with Bill McDermott, the CEO of ServiceNow.
Gold. What's gold doing?
In just a moment.
Wow.
Those shares going the
Gold's really dropped, huh? We need to see something like this on EU now.
Down after it missed expectations for sales. They did grow, but only 1%. Bloomberg Technologies' Caroline Hyde in the studio to talk about the company out of Armonk. So IBM missing expectations. What's the problem with Big Blue?
They didn't actually miss expectations, Matt. They actually beat, if you look at sales. We were expecting flatline in sales of 0%, but they managed to eke out 1% growth. But I think where you're right is the fact that there were built-up expectations because the shares have risen so hard. These sorts of companies, software-exposed companies, have been outperformers in the
Got into the gold short at the at the fill of the imbalance. Nice one, bro.
Yes, of course, they build plenty of their own hardware when they think about
Nice one, Joe.
build it in the United States. Ultimately, you're seeing software still remaining resilient. Many questioned whether DOGE, whether the efficiency coming from the government would be something.
All right, we're getting movement. We're getting movement.
Ultimately, it seems as though that's not coming out in this set of quarter for IBM nor for ServiceNow, but there is a sell-off in IBM because I think the shares rallied so hard before it.
Yeah, down. I think
A little something with that movement there now.
So big drop there. That looks nothing like what we see at ServiceNow, where Katie just showed us the shares up 14%. I think Bill McDermott is.
All right, let's see.
Let's check in with him, Matt, because I'm pleased to welcome to the
So we've literally walked through this whole move here now. Let's see if we can get markets moving in our direction. So far, if we look at this hourly candle, it's just taking out the previous hour's high. We're engulfing this candle's. Ooh, okay. This looks much better. Perfect. Looks like I might be spot on with that hourly candle, guys. How it's gonna form.
So ServiceNow has really become the AI operating system for the enterprise, and we see
Nice push. We should see this high get taken now. Looks like we're finally out of the chop. Looks like we're finally out of the chop. For whatever reason, E's just not trying to move like that. What's my price?
You do talk about potential risks regarding geopolitical environment. What are those risks? How are you seeing them?
Well, I think if you look at it, why we're so well positioned for this moment, companies today, let's take the auto industry as an example. Tariffs are on the table and that industry is affected. So these companies have to think about the marketplace very, very differently. They have to reorient their supply chains in real time.
Alrighty.
AI can do that. And you say, well, why did I have to do that? There's 30,000 parts that go into manufacturing a single vehicle. They may not be able to pass on the $10,000 increase to the consumer. So companies like ServiceNow can get them to tier 2 and 3 suppliers, sign up new suppliers in real time, and position these companies.
So for gold, yeah, guys, if we're gonna get a gold short, right? If I look at this on the lower time frame, ideally, I would like to take a short back at this high, give it 100 pips. Yeah, give it 100 pips. Targeting that gap fill, which should give us at least a 1 to 2, which is nice, which is really, really nice. Obviously, this can definitely go a lot further, fill the gap completely, but that 1 to 2 there is achievable. Okay, looks like dollar's moving. Looks like EU's finally moving. Price action is not bad. It's not bad at all. What's happening, Brian? How you doing, broski? You good? We're in some more EU shorts today, by the way.
I mean, have you spoken to Elon about the work that he's doing? How did you make sure that you were protected in this moment to be able to bring the transformation, bring the efficiency?
Well, you have to remember the agencies are run by amazing public servants and great leaders. And Doge is doing the right thing. They obviously want to make good for the American people so the taxpayers get their benefits. Our platform is front and center in helping them do that. You know, there's systems like COBOL systems in there in government entities since 1959. And then the 20th century architectures where all of these legacy systems were departmentally organized. And then there was
So we've got 10 minutes left of the hour. Like, for the dollar, I really need to see this. Whoops. I really need to see this hourly candle push up now, take out that high. I really need to see that. That's what I really need to see. I need to see us take out that high. Hopefully, like, preferably before this hourly candle closes. But if it doesn't, you know, I'm pretty confident that the next hour candle should be bullish as well. Right, we may potentially get a little test here. 15 minute. Yeah, if we get a test of that half-hour candle's high, potentially in the next half-hour candle, get a low here, and then get a high to finally bust the equal highs above, I think that's probably best case scenario. So what we can potentially do, okay, is if we get a pullback down into this, for, you know, this little area here, right, we can look to take a re-entry. We can look to take a re-entry on EU, but the only problem is EU hasn't really gone anywhere. You know what I mean? Hasn't really gone anywhere. Let's see. I mean, in either case, or in either scenario, we're just going to watch. We still have that news release as well. We have that news release as well. Let me see.
Steve Ross and his outstanding company down there in West Palm Beach, and really build coalitions with the business community. But our dream is to be the AI operating system for the enterprise. We're on the move. Only ServiceNow can go east and west and north and south in these companies. So building out AI all over the United States and all over the world is something we're quite passionate about, Caroline, and we're on our way.
Well, many loving the AI, Gen AI momentum that continues. CEO Bill Dermott at ServiceNow, thanks so much for joining us. Back to you, Katie.
Thank you.
All right, our thanks to Caroline Hyde for bringing us that conversation. ServiceNow up 15%. That is your biggest percent gainer in the S&P 500 right now.
Bryant says in the chat box, I fumbled EU last time. I'm going to sit this one out. That's fair enough, bro. There's no point in stressing about it. That's fairs. If you want to sit out, that's cool. Stock market is pushing. Probably means Bitcoin is also going for it as well. Oof. Big push. Gold's tanking. What the hell? Okay. So all we need from our side is EU playing ball. If EU can play ball, we'll be good. All right, we're 5 minutes out from that hourly candle closure. The next high impact news could be make or break in terms of these positions that we're looking at. Right, we've got existing home sales. So the forecasted is 4.14 million. The previous data is 4.26 million. So obviously the higher this number, okay, maybe it's not, you know, so obvious, but if it's higher than the forecasted, it's positive for the dollar. Okay, I think there should be a calendar in here somewhere. Thursday, existing home sales, there it is. Okay, so in the United States, existing home sales occur when the mortgages are closed. Okay, mortgages closing usually takes place 30 to 60 days after the sale contract is closed. It includes single-family homes, condos, and co-ops. Yeah. So it's coming in about 5 minutes. So let's see how it does. It doesn't look like we're gonna get up there in this particular hour. But we have to remain steadfast. He's pulling back.
S&P 500 now up another 0.5% after the big rally that we saw yesterday and the day before. So 3 days of gains. The NASDAQ up over 1%. You just saw Bill McDermott and ServiceNow rising 15%. You can see that investors are buying bonds, pushing the yield down on the 10-year and the 30. NVIDIA up 1.5%. That's better than a stick in the eye. IBM is down 6.5%, but it's not hugely represented on the S&P 500. Ford is up on news that we could see even fewer tariffs on auto parts. American Airlines down and Chipotle up, but both of them talking about uncertainty. And then Whirlpool off a little bit, but maybe it's not so bad for Whirlpool, Katie.
Yeah, it was interesting. We heard from their CEO yesterday on Bloomberg Television saying that maybe tariffs actually help them.
To your question about the tariffs, you highlighted already the most important thing is 80% of what we sell in the US is produced in the US. I know very many companies talking about reshoring, onshoring. We never left.
We're 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
No matter how you look at it, we're structurally a net winner of a tariff.
All right, interesting comments on leveling the playing field, sort of borrowing a line from the administration there. That was Whirlpool. Now, coming up in the next hour, a lot of great conversations, including with Fed Board Governor Chris Waller. This is Bloomberg.
All right. So what's going on? That hourly candle, where it is not great. It's not great. We're completely falling through this area as well. Okay, fair enough. Half-hour candle, yeah. The setup that we're looking at, or the candles that we were looking at earlier, the picture is changing. Okay. I don't want to see another doji candle. 15 minute. 15 minutes, okay. Hourly candle is changing back to a doji once again.
What would it mean for India to host the Olympics?
Linda, I don't think it's my dream alone. I think it's a dream of 1.4 billion Indians.
India wants to host the Olympics.
Olympics being held in India.
Oh, I don't know how that's gonna go, you know.
Once sport takes over, the transformation will be seen, not only in the lives of the youths, but in the economy of our country. India
How would that even work?
Biggest centers for digital usage, and 1/3 of the viewership of the Olympic channel comes from India. So India as a sporting market is huge.
Countries which have hosted the Olympics have always grappled with the issue of infrastructure, for instance.
Infrastructure, yeah.
Is one thing, maintaining it is another.
All right, we've got 1 minute left.
Differently, if it were to host the Olympics.
Talk about a quick and swift turnaround there from EU.
And sustainability. And I think the same holds for holding the Olympics. What if you look at a sustainable model? What if you look at refurbishing old stadiums, reusing what we have? So I think the move has to be a sustainable move.
Bloomberg brings you breaking news 24 hours a day. Powered by more than 3,000 journalists and analysts in more than 100
All right, 10 seconds.
across the globe. Bloomberg Television. Context changes everything. Earnings season is here.
I know it's like your Super Bowl, right?
I can't wait. It's like opening presents in the morning.
2, 1, we're here.
Nobody covers earnings.
Home sales is worse than expected at 4.02. Okay. So it is worse than expected for the dollar. Now, there isn't a mad candle, at least for now. We're not really seeing much of a reaction. But if we're going and judging off of the high impact news, it's not good for the dollar. So we should see a weaker dollar, which is not good news for the EU trade. Gold is not pulling back, is it? Gold is really not trying to pull back. Anyways, let's see what EU's doing. Oh, mate, look at that 15-minute candle. We've really had a doji closure once again. Okay, we've just had another doji candle closure. So what does this mean? Now, it doesn't mean that the setup is completely out of the window, but it just means that the probability is just decreased even further, that EU is actually going to come down. And right now we're chopping. We are just chopping. We're pretty much at entry, are we? Let me see. Yeah, we're around entry. We're going into a little bit of drawdown now. It's just not going anywhere right now, unfortunately.
The yields 10-year Treasury around 4.33%, so we'll keep an eye on that. In Bitcoin, it is lower there. So coming up, right now we're going to bring you Michael McKee, Bloomberg's Michael McKee's down.
I reckon, guys, give this another half hour, 15 minute. If we're still in here, I'll probably contemplate just closing the position because there's too much chop. Dollar doesn't know what it wants to do right now. The picture's changed literally, I think 3 or 4 times now. Literally 3 or 4 times the picture's changed.
You told me you were in St. Louis yesterday for a Fed Listens event, which is supposed to be about your framework review, and all anybody wanted to talk about was tariffs?
Yeah, that's pretty much the talk of the town. It's kind of hard not to...
Anyways, nonetheless, guys, if you're watching this live stream right now, you're enjoying the live stream, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe as well if you're new. And also, guys, I do provide more of this content for free inside of my Discord. Link to the Discord is in the description box down below, guys. Just click on that link, it will send you straight to the Discord.
Are you hearing the same things from companies that they're sort of stepping back and just sitting on the sidelines?
Yeah, and that's the general tone of every person I've talked to out in the private sector, is that they're just kind of frozen by what's going to happen with tariffs. And
Yeah, nothing much is happening, man.
it doesn't mean it won't happen later.
It's very slow. Mark says he signed off. Yeah, money day, bro. I'm about to close this off as well. No worries, my bro. About to close this off as well. Gold, ideally, if we can get a pullback higher on gold, I think contemplate taking some shorts. It doesn't look like today we're really going to get much. I did think this literally earlier on. I was like, this doesn't look like much, but let's just see what we can get today. We'll just have to leave it run for now. Yeah, everyone take a knee, take a little break, and I'll continue inside of the Discord, keep you guys updated. Other than that, Money Day. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
So even if we get the smaller tariffs, does that still leave business on the sidelines and growth prospects